Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Monday, the 27th day of November, 2023. Let me make sure my volume's up. No, it's not. Well, okay, it might increase a little bit here, so adjust yours accordingly. Uh, well, I hope you had a good holiday if you celebrated. We got to see our grandchildren, and it was magical, because they're magical. So we are on still a grandma and grandpa high from seeing them. But it is nice to be back home though. And because it got really, really cold. It was 14 one night. It got down to 14, and I don't know what it got down to last night, but it was pretty cold last night, especially with the full moon. Wasn't that gorgeous? Or no, tonight's the full moon. Last night was maiden. I got great pictures. I'm going to probably choose one to stick as a on top of a post or something, maybe a regular one. But because it was that good, the rays were emanating everywhere, and Jupiter was visible and in the picture. And but I'm sure that it was because the temperature was so cold that it was just incredible. So I expect tonight to be the same way. Hopefully there'll be no clouds. I haven't looked, but we'll see. But hopefully we'll get one of the actual full moon. Well, the full moon was actually, I think, full at 1 something this morning. Let me look here. I wonder if that's going to come up. I think it's like 1 something. I forget now. Let's see. Yeah, 1:16 a.m. this morning it was full. I knew it was 1 something, somewhere around 1:15, but it was 1:16 this morning. That was when it was actually full. But I'll go out again tonight and get another picture because that's just what I do. Anyway, draw down a little goddess moon energy there. So let's take a look at today's rune. For on the higher side, on the above side of things, the higher self side of things. Perfect one as I was. It's really Laguz in the same direction forward. It's just upside down there. You can see it's the same shape. It doesn't go the opposite direction. And realistically, if you were to start that spinning, you'd have the spiral into form, essentially the energetic spiral that focuses and becomes that vortex that spirit travels to come into the body and to stay there. That never stops. And I think that Iwaz is just an incredible rune. It's the 13th rune of the Elder Futhark. It essentially means connection between opposites, so spirit and ego, or spirit and personality might be a way of saying it. It's an as above, so below rune. Sawillo is too. It's the link between realms. It can be useful in trance work, and also it's a protection rune, but it's higher self-protection. Having that ability to see the bigger picture of something and not react in a way that gets you down into the ego focus. And so Iwaz is just a really incredible rune. It's one, if you can find an amulet or make one, or a talisman, you can make one and wear it just for protection and to keep yourself mindful of that energetic connection between spirit and ego, or spirit and personality. So there's evidently something about that today that we need to be mindful of. Let's see what the geomancy side is, the below side. Geomancy is a lot of different things. It can be the runes, geomancy runes. It can be ley lines. It can be the pendulum. Anything that has to do with the magnetic earth energies that draws the spirit down into that. That would be definitely considered geomancy. Here we have Fortuna Minor. You have Fortuna Major and Fortuna Minor. Major is greater fortune and minor is lesser fortune. I'll show you what that looks like here. There's major. They complement one another, sort of completing that whole circle about what fortune is in people's lives. I mean, it can be money, it could be that kind of fortune, but it can also be something even more spiritual, how the relationships you have with other people, how spiritually aware you are. To me, that's probably your greatest fortune. But here, lesser fortune here with Fortuna Minor is talking about progressive success. Instead of the final outcome being successful with Fortuna Major, this would be the steps along the way. And so it's like progress, the progress you make. Things that are, in other words, you could think of it as baby steps. It's like, well, I have this issue I'm wanting to deal with. I need to deal with it from a higher perspective, but I need to kind of proceed gradually when I do it. So that might be one way to look at the runes today. We'll see how much that stays true to form there, though, when we look at the cards. So if this is your first time here, welcome. I appreciate you coming by. And if you've come back, thank you so much. I hope in any event you'll click subscribe if you haven't yet. And join our little tarot and rune family as we explore how runes and tarot can just give us some other things to focus on, other ideas to consider, other ways of processing our experiences. I'm not really into predictions. I'm not really, I just feel like there's too many variables that can happen along the way, too many choices on your part, too many choices on the part of other people, but we can kind of maybe see a trend in a direction. I'll go that far, but otherwise I like to just look at whatever's influencing today. If it looks like it's work related, I'll say that'll be the trend, right? But other than that, I like to keep it pretty general. So let's go ahead. I've shuffled before I started here, and I shuffled a little more now. Let's cut the deck, take the lower half, and take 3 cards. Well, interestingly enough, one of the cards today we had last Monday. Now, we didn't meet on Thursday because that was Thanksgiving. And good Lord, my daughter-in-law I think my son was assisting too a little bit, but my daughter-in-law made the best Thanksgiving meal ever. It was so good. I mean, we ate too much, but that's just because it was so good. I mean, brava. It was just wonderful. And I remember one time she made this other dish that was just, it was a stir fry, and I have never really been a fan of red pepper, and she sliced them up and put them in there, and I don't know what she did to them, but they were fabulous. So I guess I'm a fan of red pepper now. I don't know, but it was excellent, and so I expected the meal to be really good, but it exceeded any expectations we might have had, because I mean, she's a good cook. So I mean, we'll just say that, she is, because it's true. But man, what a wonderful meal, what a wonderful experience, and we were just so happy to be there. But anyway, that's enough about that. Let's take a look at the numerology here. I'm just going to go ahead and do the calculator because I don't know where my pen is. I see a candle. I don't know. This one doesn't work, and so it's like I need to come back and put my candles in here. Let's see. We've got a 4. We've got a, where's the plus sign on the keyboard there? We have an 8, and we have a 7. And then given the 13th rune of the Elder Futhark, we'll go ahead and we'll just put 13 in and not reduce it. So that's 32, so that's 5. So we have a 5 total numerology. 5 is about change and protection. It's about innovation, variety, freedom versus restriction. That's the 5. It's about the pentagram, and the pentagram, of course, is about all elements in balance with spirit. So in a sense, that's going to relate to I was in a way, although I was is really more of our foundation, but so is the 5. When you think about the pentagram, that's also foundational. So anyway, let's take a look though. We've got wands and swords and pentacles all represented. So fire, air, and earth. No water is represented. Sometimes when you're doing tarot, you want to see what's not there. And if you've got one from each element and you're missing one, then there could be something emotional that's maybe not getting discovered here. That could be a component of this. So we'll just hang on to that thought, and we'll see what happens here. But we'll start. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reverse these. I'm going to go in a descending order. I'm going to go the 8, the 7, and the 4. I think that makes a little bit more sense. So let's start with the 8. Here we have the 8 of Swords. Again, Swords is the air element. This is intellect. This is about thought patterns and deception and truth and balance and justice and communication. Basically everything that's mental related or intellect related. And here you can look at this a variety of ways, but I tend to see this card as well. Let's just talk about it first before I say that. Here we have a woman who's bound and blindfolded. She's surrounded by swords that are pointing downward into form. They're not, when they're pointing upward into ego or upward into spirit, down here into personality or form. So this is a kind of a reactionary card, and she's trying to get away from that reaction. Either her own perceptions or the noise of other people's influences around her. Could be read either way. But she's blindfolding herself to them. She is exercising her will because she's in a red dress, reddish-orange dress there. So that's a fire element thing. You also see water here. You also see the home or the castle on the hill. So that would be earth. So you see all elements in this card, as is typical in the minor arcana. And you'll see it in the major arcana as well. But even though it's the suit of swords, you'll see other elements within that. And here she's having to exercise the will to go within and to turn off the noise around her or within her so that she can change her perception about something to make a decision she needs to make. Something isn't working for her. Either she's surrounded by deception and she needs to get clear. And again, the deception could be her own self-deception that's happening. Again, with Iwas, if you're wanting to invoke spirit into your awareness and you're trying to calm the ego's response, and the ego's very reactionary. So she could be in that moment where she realizes she's got to get out of that whole thing because whatever solutions she's coming up with isn't really working for her. And so she's got to exercise that will, that inner strength with the 8 and go within and shut the noise off, either from her own inner voice or her own thought processes, her own perceptions, or those of others that are trying to influence the decisions she needs to make about something that's happening, or even just about how she's going to see something. She could be getting a whole lot of influence, others trying to get her to see it their way. There could be a personal agenda at work on the part of other people, in other words, where they want, and if it's you, and if we'll revert this now to the querent or to the person watching here, that this resonates for. There could be people in your life that are trying to convince you of something that you know in your heart just isn't right. She's got 1 foot on the sand here, and 1 foot on the sand here, and 1 foot in the water. And so again, she's trying to balance her own inner grounding with her emotional presence, because clearly something's going on, and she needs to, both emotionally and intellectually go within and find the truth of the matter, right? And again, it's going to take inner strength to do that. Because the influence of other people right now is very, very strong. And there may be people who are awakening to something where they've always struggled, with what's being said. And it's like, well, I need to go and research this out myself. I need to go within and let higher self tell me, how am I supposed to be seeing this? And that's really what the 8 of Swords, in my opinion anyway, is about. And then once she does that, like the farmer who's taking stock of what he has here and his grape harvest there, looks pretty good to me personally. I grow grapes as well. I have them in a couple places. And I had a tree come down on one place where they were growing in pots. It's like, oh geez. So we were able to get them out of there and move them. But basically, I also have some growing next to a greenhouse, and then I have some becoming a living cover over a dome greenhouse. It's a pretty big dome greenhouse. I think it's like I think it's like 25 feet across, 25 foot high, or 15 feet high, or something. I forget what it is, but it's a big dome, and I've got grapes growing. In fact, they grow over they still have to fill in the sides, but they grow over the top, and they're almost to the other side. This last summer here, they almost got to the other side. So next year they're going to be there, and then they're going to start going out the rest of the way, and it'll cover it eventually. And it makes for really cool filtered light. So when I see this, I'm thinking, well, you got a lot there. But you see 6 pentacles there amidst the grapevines, and then you see one on the ground while the farmer sits there on his hoe, leaning on it. Reminds me of my husband when he used to go out and do irrigation. He still does it, in the field. He'll stand there and lean on the shovel and just kind of look around and see what's going on and see where the water's going and where he needs to put it and all that. And I know because I used to do this. And but basically the 7 alone is letting things settle out. It's letting things come to a rest, so you can kind of see what you've really got. And so so in this case, it's taking stock of what you have. Does he have enough to get through the winter for himself and his family? Does he have enough to sell? I mean, does he need more? So that's that kind of weighing things out to see, is everything on track? Is everything going in the direction I need it to go? And again, that would represent Fortuna Minor and the progress oriented thing that you need to do. It's like coming to a point in your growing season where you're looking and you're going, okay, do I need more fertilizer? Do I need to back off? What do I need to do? Do I need to do some weeding? It's looking at things from a process standpoint or baby steps to be sure of what it is you need to do. So you don't just act impulsively. You let things settle and you observe, and you are sure then about what it is you need to do, instead of just kind of glancing over and going, oh my gosh, and then, running and doing something that maybe isn't necessary or maybe ends up being counterproductive. So again, letting things settle out. After she's gone within to figure out what she needs to do, she's going to let things then, as she progresses onward, she's going to periodically take stock of what's going on and take a look at how things are going for her. And if it's a direction of new thinking, is that going to get her where she needs to go? Is that really the direction she needs to take, or the path she needs to be on? But in the end of it all, she comes to some kind of integration, either with someone else or others, or within the self. Now, this is obviously a marriage. You see the people on the other side of the dividing line there. You hear they got married over here. You see the garlands up here. It's a very positive, victorious moment in their lives. But if you see the castle behind them and the friends and the arched bridgeway going to their home, and so maybe the king and queen, or maybe the queen got married, or maybe the king got married, one of the two, or the prince got married, or the princess got married. But clearly this is a royal situation. But it's about creating a new foundation with the 4. 4 is about structure and foundation and grounding and the structure of your life, really. And here you even see it manifested. Here you see you got 2 representing each individual here. Now you could look at this in terms of, this is wands, and so it's the fire element. So it's will coming together, but it's balancing the will within into the feminine and masculine presence within. And I don't mean gender here, I mean energetic. So projective and receptive presence within. Projective would be masculine, receptive would be feminine. And so if you looked at this side is the masculine side, because from their standpoint, this is on the right. Then you would look at maybe he's balanced his own inner polarity so that he can then come together with her. She's done the same thing. I mean, that would be, but you're exercising the will. You're initiating a new experience. You're initiating a new relationship with the 4. And so maybe what this has to do with is relationships are not as you would like them to be. And it may be that you're being way too influenced and you're feeling overwhelmed by other people pushing their own agenda on you and their own belief system. And you need to believe this, you need to believe that. It's a tough thing to do. especially if you have people that you love and they're saying things that you think are odd and that they don't really comport with how you see things. It's difficult to just sit there and say nothing, isn't it? Because you want to get into it with them. You want to say, well, but what about this and what about that? Well, the best thing you can do in moments like that is not get into it, I think, and just listen to what they have to say, and understand them from the perspective they're giving you. I know I don't think anything is really carved in stone, but for some people, I suppose it could be. But I think everyone's capable of shifting their perception to something else based on their experiences and what they've learned and all of that. And sometimes people end up going in a direction that others don't understand. And you kind of just sit there going, oh boy. But you have to be careful, don't you? You can't really sit there and judge them and argue with them or anything like that, because it can create distance that doesn't need to be there, right? But at the same time, because if you do, if that happens to you and everyone's ganging up on you, because this is what this feels like to be, people are ganging up on her and pushing their viewpoints off on her, the best thing to do is just to be quiet and make your own decisions and not really let them know what those are. I think that they've transgressed a bit there when you start pushing your opinions off on people. I think that's what you end up doing, instead of just respecting the place they're at and just listening and just being a listening ear. Instead, we want to, and it doesn't necessarily work out very well. But anyway, I think that whatever she's done here, she's gone within, she's taken advantage of that inner voice, that higher awareness to guide her. And as she proceeds on, she takes stock of the baby steps she's on, because it's new territory. It's a new experience for her, maybe. And now when all is said and done, she can reach out in a way that maybe creates a new partnership with someone else, with other people, with a new life, a new foundation, a new structure in her life. She can see things more clearly, even if she stays within that initial situation that the swords here all represent. It doesn't mean that she has to walk away from family or friends, but maybe, and it just means that all she really needs to do is to get a different perspective on it. And then from there, she can create the life she wants to create. And maybe take a different path that doesn't exclude those other people necessarily, although maybe. But if it doesn't, it just adds some more dimension and depth to her reality. And so if that's happening for you today, there's a sense of progressiveness about it, of taking one step at a time and building on that, on the decision that you make to access higher awareness and see things from that perspective, and to continue that flow that Aiwa's talks about in your experiences. I mean, basically, this is Laguz, as I said, and Laguz is about intuition. It's about flow. It's higher awareness. It's the flow of emotions. But what is also emotions? It leads to reaction, right? And maybe the reactions that she's had are not really what she's comfortable with, and she's trying to integrate with other people's ideas and perspectives, and it just doesn't feel right for her. So if that's true for you, then the process to move in a different direction is going to take higher self getting involved with all of that and seeing things from that perspective, and then understanding that this is going to be some progression. This is baby steps. And it will take you then to a whole other way of seeing things, which could create a new partnership in your future. You don't know. But if you don't want to look at this as a partnership, you could get a little bit different balance of the receptive and projective presence within, and have that be your new foundation, and that's your new structure of your life, versus maybe it takes an exercise of will to do that, right? Just like it takes an exercise of will to do this. But it's creating that new foundation for yourself, whether it involves another person or you're simply balancing the projective and receptive presence within. You see what I'm saying? I love it when I can finally talk about that in a reading, because most of the time it just means, well, you've got a new partnership forming. But honestly, when we start with this, there's just this feeling, and especially with Aiwa's, of higher self coming in and saying, look, You're trying to function along the lines of other people's viewpoints. They're not yours. You feel it within. You feel that friction within to manifest something new, that nauthes within to manifest something new. And the manifestation is your own inner awareness and how you see life and where you want your life to go. It doesn't mean that you necessarily walk away from the people, if these are people that are trying to influence you, but you have to have a different perspective on it to where they no longer can. You see what I'm saying? So if you feel that weird tension within, and it's like you just like, but I love these people, well, sure, of course you do. Why not? There's nothing wrong with that. But unless it's a toxic situation, and then maybe you do need to rethink it. But if it's not, and it's just, well, that's how they see it, I don't really see it that way. It takes that inner motivation, the fire within, the will within, here and here, represented by the red dress, to take what you believe and then run with it. Only in this case, it's baby steps. You'll be baby stepping it, right? So and as you do, observe each moment that's happening and see it from a higher perspective. From the higher self instead of from the reactionary ego. And from there, you'll build a new type of grounding within, where the masculine is there when you need it to be, the projective side of self is there when you need it to be, and the receptive is there when you need it to be, and you find some easy balance between the two. All too often we know people that are just very, very warlike, very argumentative. That's just too much fire within. And then we know others that are very passive and they don't stand up for themselves. Well, you have to find a way. See, there are two extremes there, right? So you have to find a way to come to some kind of inner balance. And maybe what was lacking here and why she chose to do this, to go within and access higher awareness, to see things from a different perspective that's not judgmental, that's not reactionary, that just sees everything. Oh, that's happening. That's interesting. What can I learn from that? So it's a different type of a take on a situation versus emotions coming up and reacting to everything, right? And getting into it with people, or feeling like you have to go with the way the other people want you to, when in fact you don't have to do that. You really don't. There doesn't have to be any confrontation. There doesn't have to be any big statement of, well, I don't believe anything you say. I'm going to go do my own thing. You don't even have to say it. You just do it, and then later on, when they're not finding purchase with what they're trying to do and trying to convince you that their way is the only way, well, then at that point you can say, well, I hear what you're saying and I see how that works for you. But for me, I kind of believe this. And I'm excited because I'm doing these things. I've been going and taking, these courses, or I've been reading these books, or I've been listening to this, tapes on this or that, or, I've been doing a lot of spiritual types of exercises, basically. And I'm taking a little bit different direction in my life, and I'd love to tell you about it, And so there, you're now in charge of sharing your beliefs instead of other people expecting you to adopt theirs. And I think we've all been there, right? I know I have, where it's like, okay, people want me to buy into a bunch of garbage. I'm just not going to buy into it. That's been my experience. And it's like, well, no, but at the same time, they push and push and push, and they expect everybody else to just do for them and go their way and not say anything about what they're doing. And you're just supposed to be quiet and follow along. It's like, well, some of us just aren't like that. And I'm not. And it's very frustrating. It's very hard for me not to say, well, okay, fine, you can think what you want, but, I don't buy into that. Instead, I got to learn to keep that to myself, right? And just acknowledge it, say, yeah, okay, cool. And then move on, go do something else, go get another piece of pie or whatever, if it's Thanksgiving or whatever, or Christmas or some holiday. I'm gonna go get some. I'm still hungry. I'm gonna go in the kitchen, kind of dodge it a little bit, but at the same time, there could be something that's really weighing on you right now, where you feel like you've got to go within and find a different truth. you know that what you're hearing is not right, and it doesn't resonate within. And irrespective of the expectations of other people, you've got to find your own path and take stock of what you've got, and realize that this is a progressive type of a thing where you're growing into something else, and you know, as it, you know, spiritually and intellectually and perception wise, you're moving in a different direction, and you need to. That's why you feel tension right now, because that's motivating you to consider something else, a different type of foundation. So, and it's not going to all happen at once. Growth doesn't. It's, you know, I learned this, now I'm going to build on it, and I'm going to keep going. So if that resonates for you, great. It may not today, it may tomorrow or the next day or in the next week or so. Remember this, and just realize, you know, maybe that inner tension is for a reason. And it's motivating you to start thinking in another way that's more suited to how you see the world instead of how others see it. So anyway, that's it for Monday. Thanks for watching. And again, if you haven't yet clicked subscribe, I hope you'll do that. Check out my blog over at Stepping Aside. It's called the address is imsteppingaside.com. It's called Stepping Aside. It's just a witch blog, and there's stuff that goes up weekly, and then I post the write-up for the readings. I post that over there. Let's see, sometimes I put other stuff up there as well, but some astrology. So, but it's all there's correspondence I put up for the whole week, and then there's the forecast for the whole week. The correspondences, those are things that you can use when you're crafting a ritual or crafting a spell. So it's just information that way you don't have to look it up. You can just go there and say, oh, okay, that's happening today, and the elements are strongest here and not so strong there. I include a really nice astrological chart for each day on the correspondences to show you. It has an hours table, and it has the mansions of the moon table. It has the shows what I mean, it shows the wheel, but it also shows you know, where the retrograde times are, and how long till the next retrograde period, and how much left and until the next station, in other words, either direct or retrograde. That's on there. So it gives also the modes, planetary modes, and the arrays are on there. And then also, what's the other thing that's on there? Oh, the eclipse, or the moon phases are on there. I don't have eclipses on there. I probably could put that on there. But I designed the sheet itself, the astrological chart itself. So that's the kind of stuff that I look at when I'm doing stuff, to see what planetary hour I want to do it in, and this will give it for the whole week. And so I think it's a useful tool. I hope other people who are like me do as well. But if you haven't yet seen it, go over there. I'd love you to look at it. There's some sticky stuff at the top that I'll put on there for a while, and then I take it off. But just scroll down and you'll see the current stuff for the week, and then everything else that's on there. I also write over on Medium and Substack and Patreon, if you want to follow me over there on any of those places. That'd be lovely. I just publish it all over there too. I guess that's it. Thanks again for coming by. And again, if you haven't yet clicked subscribe, please do, and give it a like if you would. The YouTube people seem to like that. I don't know. It's their algorithm. I don't run ads, so you know, I don't have enough followers to run ads, or subscribers to run ads, and I don't even think if I did I would. So anyway, I just don't like the interruption of the flow of things. It bothers me. So anyway, but thanks for watching, and come back again on Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.